higher back on Nebraska the other way and hope to middle because I do think Nebraska is a better team and they're at home. But I just think like this is two very well coached teams. Like Brent Bielema is a fucking great coach, dude. And so is Matt Rule. Matt Rule is a great coach. So I just think this game's a lot closer than what the number was at 9. I just thought over a touchdown was insane, dude. So at the current number, no play for me, but I did play them at +9. And I missed the +10 because it was at 10 for like fucking a minute and a half. And then it came back down. I was pretty
Well,
mad.
Michigan. Well, I'm gonna say Michigan opened up as a 10-point favorite against SC.
That was like the look ahead though.
That was over the
Yeah.
summer, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh damn.
Because there's no way. I know there's. I mean, you'd have to be fucking high as shit to lay 10 with Michigan. That's crazy. That's crazy. All right, let's move on to our next game. Actually, we're going to talk about this game: USC versus Michigan. The number is currently at 5.5. As Irv alluded to, this did open over look ahead at 10 Michigan. Now USC's laying 5.5 after USC's win against LSU and then shutting out Utah State, which actually Utah State gave Utah a run for their fucking money last week. That game was pretty close. So
Fourth quarter.
so it doesn't that Utah State blowout doesn't look as bad. You know what I mean? Like it looks a lot better, more polished. And this game's also at 6 at some places. So if you like Michigan, you can get a 6 out there. Juiced -115. If you like USC, you can get a better number on 6 -105 +100 depends. And the total's at 44.5, pretty low. What's your guys? Irv, we'll start with you since you're a USC guy like myself. What's your thoughts on this game?
A lot of people are looking at Michigan like they're gonna play desperate. They're a wounded animal, and USC might be caught by surprise by that. But I highly doubt that, especially starting off the season against LSU. I won't say they're as physical as Michigan, but they're on the same par because LSU has one of the better, probably a top 5, top 4 O line. Michigan O line clearly is not the same as last year. They're missing 2 All Americans, and they're really, really missing them. Now, Michigan's strength on defense is up the middle. So, and if Lincoln Riley knows your strength is up the middle, he's going to do his best to attack you on the edges. He might try to get something going in the middle, but I think they're going to have a lot of screens, pitches, stuff like that, counters to get to the outside because Mason Graham and that dude in the middle are pretty damn good. Those are Sunday players, so you might want to avoid them. But other than that, Michigan offense, man, they offense look like some shit off the quarterback from what's that movie with Adam Sandler.
The Water Boy.
Yeah,
Water
no,
boy.
longest yard. No, the back. The
Oh, the
longest
longest
yard.
yard.
The
Oh,
dude that
yeah.
wanted to be the quarterback on the youngest yard, man.
What?
That quarterback play is horrendous right now, and they don't know who's the quarterback going to be. I know they announced Origi as a starter, but if he comes out and struggles like he did against Fresno, they're gonna yank him. So I just don't see.
I do think Orgy is the better quarterback option.
Yeah.
I think he's a little bit more athletic.
Yeah.
I think it opens up the offense a little bit more. I think Irv hit a lot of good points, man. USC, I was actually on LSU in that first game, and I expected LSU's offense to come out and dominate the trenches. And they did for about a quarter and a half, right? But you just kind of saw them get wore down as the game went on. That USC defense is not the USC defense that we're accustomed to, ladies and gentlemen. It is a totally different defense. And here's the thing though. I will say it still is tough to go on the road to Michigan and play a football game. It is very tough. I'm not taking anything away from USC whatsoever. I didn't play this game. I don't have too much of an opinion on this game at all, but laying points on the road to a hungry Michigan team, I see why someone would do it, but I feel like I could see why someone would play a hungry Michigan team too.
Yeah, it's crazy because
Yeah,
I mean, oh, go ahead, Trey. Go.
I was just gonna say these again. This is kind of teams that I want to say ignore, but I just don't follow the Big Ten as closely. But I will say that coming into the year, I thought there was a scenario where Michigan could play their way out of the top 25. Like that's just kind of where I was at on them. I thought it was insane when I was seeing like Mallory's brother's a Michigan fan, so we chat Michigan a lot, and I think prior to the year, I was telling her dad, so that her dad's a Penn State fan. Whole side of the family's like big Penn State fans.
Except for the brother.
And I, yeah, except for Eric, who's a Michigan fan. And we were looking at like odds to win the national championship coming into the year. And I was telling her dad, Penn State's probably a decent bet, like 22-1, I think is a good bet. And I remember pulling up the markets, and Michigan wasn't that far off at like 30. I think this is, remember, prior to the season, they were like 35-1. And I was just like, would be maybe the worst bet of all time. Like the literal worst bet of all time to put a cent on this Michigan team winning anything this year. Yeah. And that's when I kind of got to like thinking like, man, like that's a team that I think could fall out of the top 25 at some point. And after watching them against Texas, and then, kind of seeing the lackluster effort last week, winning that game by 10, I don't really put a ton of stock into the final result, but the Texas game was like pretty glaring to me. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm right about that. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see Michigan just be an unranked team 2 weeks from now. Right. Yeah. Like even if they lose this one, they might have one more chance to kind of stay in the top 25. But I could only play against Michigan at this point. Like I would have no interest. Like 5.5 seems. I almost feel like you need at least a TD to get involved with Michigan here.
Agreed.
I kind of lean USC at the number.
Hey Jordan, I will say one thing that I do want to add is I'm not a totals guy at all, but we know that the total has gotten hit and bet down pretty significantly in this game.
Yeah.
With the under getting hit. And I think that comes back with Orji being a quarterback and the fact that Michigan was still able to run for over 300 yards. Michigan ran the ball almost 50 times against Arkansas State. I think they're going to try to run the ball, slow the game down, and, do what we all would do, keep USC's offense off the field, right? So if you're looking at something to bet, maybe getting involved live where you could get the number, on an under, maybe it might be the play. And I think that maybe correlates with, Michigan.
Yeah. I mean, I came on this show 2 weeks ago when Michigan was playing Texas at the Big House. And I was like, you know what? Like I'm taking the points with Michigan. Like, Texas isn't going to go in the Big House and just smoke them. And Texas went in the Big House and just smoked them, dude. Like, this isn't the same Michigan team as like the last couple of years. They literally can't move the ball offensively. And that final score of that Texas-Michigan game was not indicative of how dominant Texas was in that game. Like, they absolutely dominated that game, but Sark took his foot off the gas. As a true Pete Carroll alumnus, because Pete Carroll's famous for that. He would like absolutely take his foot off the gas at the end. And Sark did the same thing in that game. That game could have been like 60 to 3 or whatever it was. Like, that's how dominant that was. And so I look at that, and you look at the stats too. It's like, you look at USC and on their defense and stuff. Defense giving up 0.33 points per drive. 0.33. They're not even giving up a point per drive against LSU and Utah State. I mean, that's insane. That is absolutely insane. And Michigan's offense, honestly, might be worse than Utah State. Bro, they don't have any skill players.
Well, I know right now they're ranked 108th, so that's pretty damn bad. But honestly, you got to blame Harbaugh, too, because him basically holding them hostage and then deciding to leave at the last minute, that cost them a lot in their recruiting and the portal, because people didn't think, wasn't going to go there not knowing who's going to be the coach and how the staff was going to shake out. But now they're paying for it because, I don't know, man. If I was Michigan, I know you got a 5-star true freshman. He can't be any worse than those other two dudes, man. I would live with the growing pains, throw him out there, let him get some, live darts thrown at him.
It's like Kid Carr, right?
No, it's Jaden Davis. He's a
Red.
A lot of people compared him to
Did Carr end up going to Notre Dame?
I think he's at Notre Dame because he reclassified, so he got to be at Notre Dame. But yeah, he was supposed to be their crown jewel of this class, but he flipped to Notre Dame. But yeah, Sharon Moore, man, he has to get it together because he's not going to be in Michigan long if he doesn't, because that fan base is pretty impatient. You see what they did to Brady Hoke. Well, after Lloyd Carr left, you see what they did to coaches. They was chewing them up and spitting them out. So if he wants to be a mainstay.
That's what I'm talking about. This feels like a Michigan team that's like in a almost like a total rebuild to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
So how are they just how are they a top 20 team right now, at least per the rankings, right? Because that plays into it a little bit. If
Yeah.
Michigan was unranked here and it had no hype connected to them, they're probably like it's probably similar to the Texas line, right? And Texas is probably, in hindsight now, Texas is probably more like a 10-point favorite in that game, or -9.5, not -7.5. So I think that was pretty telling, that Texas game. Again, like AK said, you have to stomach like playing going up to the big house, playing the road chalk, if you will. But I feel like we're gonna look back at this game like a month and a half from now and be like, wait, we could have laid 5 with USC. Like that was it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's kind of what it feels like to me. I just think USC
Yeah,
is so
I feel
superior.
it. If Michigan turns the ball over once, it's gonna be a blowout. Because they already not gonna be able to hang with SC scoring points like they wasn't able to hang with Texas. And right now, USC's defense is playing better than Texas defense. So it's gonna be if they can't maintain drives early, it's gonna get real ugly. Because Miller Moss doesn't turn the ball over. He runs the offense the way it's supposed to be ran. This is no shot at Caleb. Caleb is special. He did what he wanted, and if Caleb had this defense, man,
National champs.
that's but
Saying it right now. It's only one play this weekend on this game. USC, lay the points, baby. That's all we got to do. I think Trick said it best. We're going to be looking back on this game in a month and being like, hold on, we could have played USC -5. That's it. This game might be if it's we talk about it in a month. This game might be like -13. Trick, I think you're right. I think that this Michigan team is just, I don't think they're very good.
Yeah, they're in shambles, low key.
And I'm still mad about losing that Texas bet. So,
Hey, I will throw out one thing for you guys, and then we can move on from you guys homering over here. Is in the last 15 years, Michigan's been a dog of 5 or more in the big house 5 times.
And they're 0-5 probably. I knew it was probably 0-5 since they lost the last one.
Damn.
How about that?
That's pretty interesting. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I think you guys all made good points, and I haven't played this game. Hopefully it gets down, but I don't like to bet on USC as a USC fan because it's I feel like I'm just jinxing them when I do it. So I usually tend to play the overs or their team total over or something like that, to kind of get money on them. But yeah, I think his Michigan team fucking stinks, dude. And I also think Sharon Moore is a fucking idiot for fucking telling everybody that Orgy's gonna be the quarterback. He could have kept that in his pocket until Saturday, and because it's two totally different quarterbacks to prep for. You know what I mean? And the thing is, and this is the other thing too that I didn't mention. Eric Gentry, phenomenal defensive player, leads USC in tackles this year. Was phenomenal before, and that just goes to show how dog shit Alex Grinch is because he could not figure out how to use the kid. But I think he's a big factor as a spy against athletic quarterbacks because he's super fucking he has a 7-foot wingspan and he's athletic as shit. So I think having a guy like him to spy Orgy, I think that's even more beneficial to the USC defense.
Is that tight end playing?
He can't catch though.
No, I'm talking about the tight end for Michigan.
Yeah, he can't catch. Love Lady or whatever.
Yeah, if he's not playing, then their offense is super.
He can't catch though.
Handicapped. I know, but I'm just saying he is somebody you got to pay attention to because
he dropped 4 balls right in his hand against Texas, dude. Literally in his hand.
That was a bad game, but he's not gonna play like that every week. He's an NFL tight end.
Oh, fuck
he has he has a bright future ahead of him. But if he's not playing, then that offense is really handicapped. They might run the ball 50, 60 times, like AK said, and they probably only average 3 yards a carry because Deanson Lynn. Man, that dude makes great adjustments, man.
He's a dog.
After that.
All right, Jordan, next game. Let's roll. Jesus, this isn't a USC podcast.
We got dogs, dude. We finally got dogs on the. Hey, AK and Trey, you guys don't know what it's like. I mean, we grew up with great USC defenses, dude. I'm talking Junior Seau, Willie McGinnis, Troy Polamalu. You know what I'm saying? We got our whole our whole team has been built on defense, and then it's like we get a good offensive coach, and like we're hella good on offense, and it's like our defense just fucking sucks, dude. Couldn't stop a
And
fucking nosebleed, dude.
Speaking of Alex Grinch, he comes to the Coliseum next week.
Fuck him. Fuck
He's
him.
not coaching for USC though.
All right, let's move on to the next game. We got Tennessee at Oklahoma. Tennessee's finally playing a real football team this weekend. Heading into Norman, Oklahoma. Lane 7 at Norman. And the total is 57.5. AK, what's your thoughts? Because you're the big Tennessee homer here.
You know, like I said about Nebraska, I was really high coming into the season on this Tennessee team. Thought they would figure it out. I was really high on Nico coming into the season. And listen, they've done what they're supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
I have nothing bad to say about them at all. They've done what they were supposed to do, not only on offense, but also on defense. You know, we knew Pierce Jr. and all of them, but a lot of these other guys have stepped up too that I was kind of banking on. You know, the biggest question coming into the season with Tennessee was their back four on defense, right? Their secondary. That was the big question mark. They've done what they're supposed to do. You know, I cashed my biggest bet of the college football season. Have my second one coming up this week on Tennessee against NC State, and they came to Charlotte and really took care of business.
God, that NC State team is so bad, dude.
There's a 20 point underdog this week.
Yep. And so now, but I will say it is still hard to go out there and play Oklahoma on any given Saturday. That crowd is going to be nuts, but Tennessee's used to that. I'll tell you what, Jordan, I actually didn't play this game. You know, my initial gut says that Oklahoma probably keeps it within the number, especially when it was 7.5. It feels like a game Tennessee wins, but Oklahoma keeps in the number. To give you an idea, the look-ahead line at this game was like Oklahoma favored by 1 over the summer, right? Or Oklahoma, you know, basically a pick 'em, we'll call it. Mm-hmm. I don't know if this team is a touchdown now away. So my lean is to Oklahoma covering the number. I still think Tennessee gets it done, but ultimately didn't play anything here.
Trey, what do you think?
I think it's so. I do know. I was reading Oklahoma just message boards and stuff like I know they expected to be healthier for this game. Yeah. So that's like a thing that like I was kind of looking at, because Tennessee is one of the teams that I followed for years. I had friends that went there. I used to go to Knoxville pretty much 8 straight years. I went down to Knoxville for a game. It's a great place. I know this game's not there, but so I do have, the Vols are kind of on my radar year in and year out. And my gut tells me that Oklahoma is like more banged up than they hoped to be by this point in the season. So that's something that I guess gives me like a little cause for concern there, because I do think that if you get a 7.5, I think this is 7, but it's starting to creep towards 7.5. That's certainly tempting to play Oklahoma. Tennessee is a team that I kind of expected to be a little bit of a fade against the number this year. Reason being, I thought the defense, I had big time questions about the defense, specifically the secondary. And we haven't seen any, they haven't had any sort of test yet. I think you opened the segment saying they're going to finally play a real team. NC State, we thought might have been the team to give them a game, and they're just horrific, right? You look at them and you look back at that game, and it's hard to say that they've played anyone at this point. But there was a point in that NC State Tennessee game where I think it was a pretty tight game right before half. I'm going off memory, but I believe there was a pick 6 that kind of opened that one up, and then it just kind of got crazy.
It was a fumble, an unforced fumble. Grayson McCall literally just fucking threw it to him.
And then the next drive, pick 6, that kind of just opened it up.
Yeah.
So
Yep. That's right. Yeah, it was the fumble and then the other turnover. So, again, it's kind of similar to the Raiola. He could face a little bit of adversity. Nico might face a little bit adversity here. He hasn't had to yet.
First true road game too.
Right. First true road game. It's one of those ones where I think I don't know how you bet this game really, because me personally, I'm not confident enough in Oklahoma to step in front of Tennessee, but I see the reasoning why someone would do that, right? Yeah. I see the reasoning why. I think you can make a very strong case, especially if this gets to 7.5, for taking a shot with Oklahoma. So I wouldn't put anyone off an Oklahoma bet, but I did read that I think it's Anderson that might come back this week, but there were some others that likely won't. And if they were full strength, I'd be more apt to take a shot with Oklahoma. But knowing they have some injuries, I'm out.
Yeah, their offense kind of fucking sucks, dude. Jackson Arnold, I don't know. But I think last week was kind of a look ahead spot where like they kind of were looking ahead to this game. So I think we can like that's the hard part about college football, dude, is like that game last week, like I don't want to put a ton into it for Oklahoma's sake because they did play a good team and then they have Tennessee next, right? Whereas like it's just so tough because I mean if you look at the stats on Tennessee, I mean it's like, dude, they're the best team in fucking college football. But it's like they literally haven't played anybody. So it's like it's hard to like really put in and that, I get what you're saying, Trig. It's like, you know, if I were to play this, it would be Oklahoma. And I got the fucking testicle fortitude that I'm gonna fucking play Oklahoma. Because I'm gonna put my fucking meat on the table and I'm gonna be like, yo, I don't think Tennessee's played anybody. And I think Oklahoma's the best team they're facing. And Nico's got to go into Norman, his first true road game as a freshman quarterback, or as a redshirt freshman, sophomore. He played like one game last year, a bowl game. And so I think this is going to be a tough game for Tennessee. I don't think this is going to be a walk in the park. Now, last time I said this, I lost. And you know what? It could be a possibility again. But I like Oklahoma in this spot. I do. I think their defense is good, man. 13th in the nation in net points per drive. First in the nation in net field position. Their defensive success rate against the rush, 20. I think this is a good defense, man. I think they're going to do enough to stymie Tennessee. But again, to our point with USC and Michigan and Illinois and Nebraska, if Oklahoma gets in a shootout, this is over, dude.
Yeah, well, think about this. Like sometimes I like to look back. You know, 2 weeks ago, right? It was 2 weeks ago that there was probably, you know, I mean, you even said yourself, like you could make a case. It was NC State +8 on a neutral, right? Yeah. And like now look at like, so you mean to tell me I can have Oklahoma +7.5 on their home field, or I could have had NC State roughly the same spread on a neutral. Like, but think about how much better of a bet it with a little bit of a hindsight that Oklahoma looks, knowing that, like, you know, so I guess the point I'm trying to make is like that's the up tax now for Tennessee just from like what they've done the last 2 weeks. But we know that NC State team is just dog shit. Like they're just not good. And
dog shit.
They haven't played anyone else. So if you look at it like that, you have to be probably pretty excited to be getting 7.5 here with the Sooners.
Yeah.
Like, you know, just comparatively speaking.
I agree 100%. Irv, what do you think? Because I know you hate Oklahoma.
No, I've never had nothing against Oklahoma. I had a cousin that went there. He graduated from there. He owns a record in the triple jump. Shout out to my cousin John. But
interesting.
Since Lincoln Riley left, and not him per se, but that whole fan base has just hated USC. But I don't see how you hate USC. The last time you played us, you lost 55-19 in the national championship. So, but being at home, Jackson Arnold is a 5-star. He's probably not the level of QB Nico is because not many people have that arm strength, that athleticism, that ability that he has, and he's 6'5", damn near 6'6". So Nico's kind of like made in the lab, and Jackson Arnold is like he's a good QB. I'm not gonna hold nothing against him. He can make the throws. It's just when he gets under pressure, he's not the same player. We haven't really seen Nico under pressure at all, so we'll see if he can handle the pressure and still make those type of championship throws that he's capable of. But I believe a lot more in Nico than I do in Jackson Arnold. And I don't know, man. For me, I just think Brett Venables is better off as a DC.
Yeah.
I don't think he's that good of a head coach. He says you should stick to what you're good at, which was made for you. And him being in the SEC is going to be the proof in the pudding. Can he handle that week in, week out grind? Not saying that it's a gauntlet every year, but at the top of the SEC, it's going to be a gauntlet when you play those upper tier teams like the Georgias. And we're going to see if we can start putting Tennessee in that conversation.
The one thing I want to add before we move on to is that Nico did not throw the ball well against NC State. Like let's call it for what it is. Like he did not throw the ball very well. They won that game because of his legs.
Mm-hmm.
And all broadcasters saying,
and the defense.
And all broadcasters saying, oh, he wants to be a pocket quarterback. He doesn't want to use his legs, and he's out there like running for like 100 yards. It's like, I get it.
I will add one thing because I know we've all kind of made a case for Oklahoma. Here's the thing. One thing about Tennessee is that all week I've listened to press conferences with Brent Venables, and it triggered in my head, Irvin, thanks for bringing that up. The minute you mentioned that, all they've talked about is this is Heupel's first game coming back to Oklahoma, right?
That's true. Yeah.
Why is Oklahoma so worried? Not even the coach, but the team has come out and said it. The fans have. Why are we so worried about Heupel? You haven't heard a single thing from Heupel or Tennessee about coming. This is just another week to them. So sometimes in that situation, I like to kind of fade that, right? And if we're worried about is the former player, former coach, yada 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 coming back to town, we still got a football game to play. And in Tennessee, it feels like it could be just another game too.
That's a good point.
Like I said, this is a huge game. When I set out and looked at my futures and I placed my biggest future of the season, which we all know is Tennessee, this was one of the 3 swing games for me that I have to have. And I think they get it done in some shape or form. I'm just certainly not laying 7 or 7.5 in Norman.
Yeah, they might win. You know what I mean? But I think a touchdown is like, I think it's a lot, dude.
I do too.
Yeah, but I don't know if Oklahoma play like they did against Tulane that first half, they might be down 21-0.
Oklahoma escaped and barely. We are talking about a team that barely got out of Houston with the win.
Yeah,
Probably should have
yeah.
lost that game actually.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I still lean Oklahoma though, plus 7.5.
Yeah, because it's hard because them being that good of a defense and giving them that many points at home, unless they just go out there and lay an egg or Tennessee just come out guns blazing, then it could be a Michigan Texas type game. But if that happens, then Venables' seat is going to heat up because a lot of that fan base still they try to act like he's their guy, but in the back of their heads they're like, damn, we lost Lincoln Riley still. So we'll see how
Brent Venables has had 3 press conferences since the game Saturday, and he's brought up Josh Heupel every time.
Yeah, I don't love that, but I mean it is big. Like, I mean, he's a Heisman quarterback coming back to his school, you know what I mean?
His alma mater.
I mean, Heupel is probably going to be the next Oklahoma coach if we're keeping it a buck. You know what I mean?
That could be an option too.
Why is Oklahoma State getting slammed right now?
Because Utah doesn't win on the road. Because who? What did you say, Irv?
Cam Rising might not play.
No, he's playing. I have word from our very trustful Utah source that Cam Rising is playing.
Okay, he's playing. Okay.
But Utah and with Cam Rising, what's the last big road game they've won?
Never.
Exactly.
So
they can't even win on a neutral site.
Oh, hey, Trick, our good friend Bayou did send something to us earlier.
Everyone just, like, a whole bunch of people that I know and respect just rushed to bet Oklahoma State at +2, and it's down to a pick. So, yeah, like within the last couple minutes.
I'm telling y'all, let me text Loney. Oh, shit. I shouldn't have said his name.
Our good friend Keith Bayou Betts, shout out if he's listening. He did text me something earlier today. Gundy, as a home dog in the last 9 years, 8-1 against the spread.
Yeah, I mean, even if Cam's playing, I would bet Oklahoma to win this game, dude. Oklahoma State, I'm sorry. But I have good word. Loney told me last week that Cam Rising was not going to play against Utah State, but he was going to play against Oklahoma State. And like he talks to he has direct connections with people on the staff. He knows what's going on.
Damn, the combined age of the two quarterbacks starting on Saturday is 49.
Yeah.
The combined age of Caleb and CJ was 44. They're both NFL starters.
That's insane. All right.
That's crazy.
Let's move into the last game we're going to talk about. And I know this one we got split opinions on. So this should make for some great conversation. We got Cal and Florida State. I almost said Fresno State because I'm not used to Cal playing all these East Coast teams. Right now, Fresno State's laying 2.5 at home against Cal, who's a much better team. Florida State sucks. The total's at 44.5. AK, he's texted me. He's made some phenomenal points. So I'm gonna give him the floor for why he likes Florida State this weekend.
Well, I'm gonna Stockton him alone, and I'm gonna toss it up and let Trig dunk it home for me. But here's the thing: I came into the season, and I will admit I was wrong. So let's start that off. I didn't believe the hype of everyone was saying, "Oh, Florida State's so hungover. You know, all they did was cry about the playoffs. It's all they're gonna think about. They're gonna struggle out the gate." I didn't believe that. A lot of that noise I like to fade. I was dead wrong. However, we still have a Florida State team that came into the season supposed to have you mentioned the LSU offensive line, Irv. You said they were supposed to be like the 4th best offensive line in the nation. You know, one of the 3 teams that was supposed to be better than them offensively on the offensive line side was Florida State. Right? So they have over 200 combined starts on the offensive line. And I thought that would be able to overcome some of DJ's flaws. Now, here's the thing. This Cal team, I like this Cal team. Jordan, me and you have talked about this Cal team. I do like this Cal team. But this is an incredibly tough ask for the Cal team to come out to the East Coast in the first year of being an ACC conference team. They just upset Auburn, Auburn has their own problems that's for another day, but have their own problems. You know, the quarterback was being benched, et cetera, et cetera. Upset them as a 2-touchdown underdog. Comes back home, handles business against a San Diego State team that I think the 4 of us can all agree is a shell of the San Diego State team that we've seen in years past.
They might be better offensively than Florida State, though.
Then has to travel back to – it's still tough to play in Tallahassee, guys. Yeah. It's tough to go in there and play. I don't care who you are.
Don't tell Boston College and Memphis that, though.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said until I saw him play Boston College and Memphis.
And then with Mike Norvell's job on the line, let's face it, guys.
Nah, he's not getting fired.
This game, they're going to fire him.
Nah, he's not getting fired. They just gave him an extension. They're not going to fire him.
They're going to fire him.
No, I think they might because they already said on their message board that one booster is willing to pay his entire buyout. So
I read that same thing.
So my point of this Gibson be telling me that there's no way he gets fired.
I'm going to let my good friend Trigger toss it home. But I do love listening to press conferences and things of that sort of nature during the week. I listen to Mike Norvell. He said all the right things. The defense is coming back together. The offensive line, to my point earlier, has been a little banged up. They're the healthiest they've been all season. I think they're going to come out here. They're going to turn around and hand the ball off 40 or 50 times. And I think Florida State can grind out a 31-21 game here. I'd be very surprised if Florida State starts 0-4.
Woo!
You know who should be able to handle a situation like this?
Not
Mike Norvell.
No way.
Because you got to go back to 2021 when he started 0-4, and there was a very similar sentiment around the program at the time. People were calling for his head. That was the year, if you guys remember. They were number 9 in the country to start the season that year, so they were a top 10 team. They lost to Notre Dame in overtime, I believe at home. And the next week, they went out and lost to FCS Jacksonville State. That was not FBS Jacksonville State yet. That was an FCS school at the time. Lost that game, no-showed the following week against Wake Forest, and then I actually think they lost another one. I believe they lost to Louisville to start 0-4, and then they beat Syracuse. I remember that game well. Syracuse gave them all they could handle in Tallahassee. They escaped with a 3-point win. So Syracuse covered the number in that game. But the next game after that, when everyone kind of had this team cooked, no one wanted any part of FSU. They went to Chapel Hill and beat North Carolina. And I guess the reason I'm going down memory lane here is because I feel like the sentiment is that this Florida State team's just gonna not win a game. And it's like Florida State's probably still they're probably still like a 6-6 team, right? Like what are they, 5-7 at worst this year? At worst. I mean, it's not like out of the realm that they turn it around.
Can I ask you a question real quick, Trey? Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Who was their quarterback when that year you were talking about 2 years ago?
It was 4 years. Was it 2021? Who their quarterback in 2021? AK, help me out.
I don't know
Who
who
was
they're.
their
I don't know. That's why I'm
it-
asking. I don't know off the
It
top
was
of my head.
I know who came in. It ended up being Jordan Travis. It was his freshman year. Remember they burned his red shirt that year?
Yeah, Jordan Travis.
Wasn't it?
That's
Yeah,
right.
wasn't it that who wasn't there? Wasn't it Francis that got hurt?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he
that
got hurt.
first game?
He got hurt in the Notre Dame game.
Notre Dame game. Yeah.
Jordan Travis had to come back and start, and I think that Jacksonville State game was on a Thursday night. It was a weird situation,
Yeah.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
and they
All right.
burnt
I
Jordan
guess-
Travis's red shirt.
I want to go back though to something AK said. I love Florida State here too. I laid the 2.5. I think it's a great bet. You know, you want to talk about like college look ahead lines, like couple weeks ago, this is a 2-touchdown spread, probably comparable to the Auburn game. I almost think before the Auburn game, I bet Florida State's more like 17.5-point favorite here, right? Like before we have the knowledge of them losing to Boston College and to Memphis, like even after the Georgia Tech loss, I bet FSU is still like a 17-point favorite in this game. Like prior to Cal like beating Auburn. So the fact that you're getting them at -2.5 is a huge discount. AK already pointed out the travel spot for Cal. And the other thing too, the travel spot, but they're also playing their 4th game in 4 weeks, right? Like a lot of these other teams that have got caught in like tough travel, like you got Stanford coming up here to Central New York on Friday night. They had the week off last week, so not as big of a deal. Cal playing their 4th game in 4 weeks. It's, in my opinion, it's a big ask for them, but also there is a path to victory here for Florida State. And someone needs to go in there and tell Florida State that they got to run the ball 50 times, right? Like run the ball as much as humanly possible. Last week, they had 37 rushing yards against Memphis. That's so unacceptable for a team like AK said, who has a good offensive line and who really like profiled, in my opinion, coming into the year. I thought this was going to be a team that lived just running the ball and just slamming the ball down the opponent's throat. And it just baffling to me that they only had 37 rushing yards against Memphis. Like, bad teams that are totally outclassed can run for more than 37 yards if they're trying to run the ball. So you got to hope that
Florida State
Norvell
was
and that
trying to
staff-
run the ball.
I mean, again,
They were running the
had that
opposite
off
way
in the-
though.
Well, yeah, I had that on the auxiliary screen for that game. I think what was I doing at the time?
I mean,
maybe
they're
studying
averaging
Missouri.
They're averaging less than 1 expected point per rush. I mean, they're terrible at rushing the football. They're 114th in the country.
Here's what they need to do, in my opinion, and I think that this will be their game plan. They have to they've got to find a way to get a little push in the run game, but they can wear that Cal defensive front out because it's their 4th game in 4 weeks. They're coming on the road. They got to figure out a way to just tire out Cal. Tire out Cal's defense a little bit, keep them on the field, move the chains a couple times. I think Cal will crack at some point. And if the other thing they need, Jordan, they need some confidence, because last week, what I watched in that FSU Memphis game was a very dejected FSU team.
Oh, they're
okay?
trash, dude.
And it's
I mean, there's no doubt about that. Like, they're dejected. I mean, they got DJ Ugalele playing quarterback, dude. I mean, the guy can't throw the ball past 5 yards.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm banking again. This bet here, I'm absolutely banking on them making adjustments. But this, I mean, you can't really call you can't call Norvell a bad coach. Like, he hasn't done a bad job there,
I mean, he had one
right?
good
Like,
year.
that's not.
He had one good year, and we're
Okay.
crowning him. I'll say
I
this
mean,
much.
I don't
straight.
know.
I'll say this, and I've told both you and AK this. I think the spot, I agree with both of you. The spot is terrible for Cal because they got FSU, and then they got Miami next week at home. And they are definitely looking forward to Miami way more than they're looking forward to FSU. However, I think FSU is so fucking bad that they can look past FSU and still win this game. That's how bad Florida State is. Like, they are, I mean, I'm looking at their stats, dude. Like, this is just atrocious. They're so fucking terrible at everything. Dude, they're bottom third of the country in every offensive statistical category. They're bottom half of the country in every defensive statistical category. And on the flip side, Cal is like top third in the country in offensive success rate. They're top third in the country in offensive rush rate. They're top quarter of the league in dropback percentage. And Justin Wilcox is a much better coach than Mike Norvell. Shout out USC. Justin Wilcox came under the Pete Carroll tree. He knows how to coach. The thing with the biggest question about Cal has always been that do they have the resources to compete with other big schools? Because they have the coaching staff. It's about getting the players, dude. They're going to have the best player on the field in this game, and Jaden Knott. He's the best player on this field. I think we all agree.
He's still questionable too, Jordan. Still a lot of talk of him maybe not playing.
The woke army saying he's playing. I mean, shout out to Cal Twitter. Cal Twitter is just doing a fucking phenomenal job this week. They're just killing it.
And I will say, as I believe the whole Oklahoma fans are so worried about Heupel coming in, sometimes those fans doing a lot of talking. It goes over into the players and it gets a little overconfident. Especially, I love the fact that Cal has a bye next week. You cannot tell me that these kids they don't even want to be out here. Why would they want to play Florida State?
No, they definitely want to be out in Florida. I mean,
I disagree with that. I disagree with that a little bit. Cal's not going to not get up for Florida State. I still think it's a big deal.
I think they're on to their bye. This is an easy game they can cruise into playing, as Jordan said, an awful Florida State team, and they're on to, in their mind, the ACC championship game with 2 weeks to prepare for it.
But I'm gonna tell you guys.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that. Florida State's still a huge brand. Cal's not. It's not going to be for a lack of effort from Cal. I'm just banking on the fourth game in 4 weeks, having to go down to that Florida heat. I know it's not South Florida, but it's still Tallahassee. In September is not the easiest place to play. I don't think Cal's not going to get up for this game though.
Let me say this too, real quick.
The one thing I'll say, and the things that my three brothers is missing is that Cal is coached by a team and a coaching staff that's not going to beat themselves. And Florida State has beat themselves over and over and over to start this season. And I don't see it changing this game.
I want to add this too real quick, Irv, real quick. Because you and I understand this because we live on the West Coast. But AK and Trig don't. And I'm going to tell you guys this right now. The West Coast, we pride ourselves, all of our programs, the Pac-12, Mountain West, etc. Like, the SEC is literally scared every year to come to the West Coast and play Pac-12 schools, play West Coast schools. I'm telling you right now, Cal is not going into this game overlooking Florida State. Like, this is a big statement game for them, for the program, and for the entire fucking coast. Like, this is massive in that respect. Because I'm telling you guys right now, bro, the West Coast, we dominate sports, dude. We dominate athletics and everything. And we get shunned all the time because the SEC gets all the media, the ACC gets all the media, like all the East Coast teams get all the media because all the media is out there. They don't stay up late for the West Coast teams to play. And you're seeing how the Pac-12 is performing now in all their other conferences. Just playing really phenomenal. It's because the West Coast is the best coast. We got the best weather. We got the best athletes. I mean,
hey Jordan, I don't know if you watched Cal play this year. I'm sure you have. You realize UC Davis missed a field goal.
Oh, that UC Davis, a great FCS team though.
And it took. Do you realize UC Davis had Cal on the ropes until the fourth quarter when they ran the fumble back for a touchdown? Right?
They sure did.
Davis had Cal.
You know why, AK? Because they're full of West Coast athletes at UC Davis.
Yeah. Well, I'll take the West Coast bias out of it and give me Florida State. Max bet. My biggest bet since Tennessee.
Let's go.
Of course, Jordan argued with me all week about it. He was on NC State, and it didn't turn out too well.
Did not.
So Florida State minus 2.5. Let's go.
All right.
Yeah, I love it. I'm banking on. Listen. I'm just banking on Florida State cleaning some of this up. They're going. There's no way that this team is going to lose every single week.
But Trig, we said that last week too. We said that the week okay, they're going to.
We didn't. Me and Trig didn't.
I remember being back in 2021, and there was so go back to 2021, which was very similar scenario, and I remember Hughes fans thinking that they were just going to beat FSU in that game, and I'm just like, we're probably the one they're going to get here, right? And sure enough, they won that game. And then the next week, North Carolina Carolina was having a pretty good season that year.
That was
And they went
Sam
into
Howell. That
Chapel
was
Hill.
prime Sam Howell.
Yeah, prime Sam Howell, and they went into Chapel Hill and won. And it's like, this is still a 3-game sample. I still think they have the ability to do, like, listen, they've rushed for less than 40 yards in back-to-back weeks. They're at what I would consider rock bottom. If I'm wrong and they go lower than this weekend, I will just tip the cap. Like, I can't.
Not that I put but so much account in this, Jordan. We can move on, but I believe in it's always better to be on the side the books are. Cal has money pouring in on them. All the splits are Cal, ticket count, money, everything. And the books are moving towards Florida State. It's now juiced 2.5s out there, and it's going to go to 3.
Normally,
because the book.
Normally, I agree with you, AK, but in college football this year, it's like the total opposite. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, the books are taking a stand, and they're taking a stand because they know Florida State's winning this game by more than 3 points.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Hey, and I forgot to add too, Cal Berkeley, UC Berkeley. I mean, one of the most difficult schools to get into, aside from like Ivy League schools. I mean, these kids are smart. Like, they're definitely not going in there and overlooking Florida State. They're too intelligent for that.
I agree play out on there. Saturday. I don't think they're going to overlook Florida State. That's one thing that I like them in spite of that. I don't think that they will overlook Florida State because I do think it's a big deal for Cal to play Florida State and to go to Tallahassee and play. Like, that does not feel like I don't think they take that for granted.
Yeah.
I think it's just tough to do it in 4 straight weeks of playing after you've already had to go to Auburn, go back to the West Coast. It's now your 4th straight game. Dude, you talk. I listened to Kyle McCord on a podcast last week, and he was saying how thankful they were for that early bye, and how like the players love that 3rd week bye because they grinded out all summer, and it you start to get 5, 6, 7 weeks into the season, and it doesn't happen as much as it used to because I think most teams get like an early bye, late bye type of scenario now. But you get 5 weeks in where you've played every single week. That's tough. I mean, you see good teams lose to really not so good teams in that scenario. So that's where I'm kind of willing to fade Cal, is that it's 4th game in 4 weeks, and they had to trip to Auburn. I also had to downgrade Auburn just a little bit. Agreed. After watching them last week. Really, I got stuck with a terrible number in that game, and really, like, that's just I had Auburn minus 28 before all the bullshit with Thorne and then the weather, and then of course it lands 26 and most people won, but I would downgrade Auburn after that. They
Trick, that's another great point to what you're saying, and a great conversation too, and I don't mean to like compound on it, but like,
no, I was rambling because I was trying to talk and watch the Rangers at the same time.
So. But how bad is it? How much worse is the SEC than we expected this year?
Yeah, there is some bad football teams in the SEC this year. Like, it used to be like the depth in the conference was insane, and that is just not the case. And you know what? It hasn't been the case for a while, but it's a little bit more glaring than it's been the last kind of few years, in my opinion.
Florida might be the worst FBS team in the country.
I feel like the disparity is just unbelievable, Jordan. I feel like you got the top 4 or 5 teams, right? Mm-hmm. And then you feel like you have the Sun Belt in the bottom 4 or 5.
Yeah, you're right, dude. Like 100%. It's like, it's crazy. Like, you got Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, and
Ole Miss,
and maybe Oklahoma and Texas. Sorry, Texas. I mean, they got 18 teams now. And it's like, right. After those 6, it's like the other 12 are just fucking like horrendous, dude.
Yep.
I mean, I guess we could throw Mizzou in there too, but Mizzou might
I would throw Mizzou in there.
They're fool's gold.
They might gold. I was going to say, they might be some fool's gold, dude. They might be benefits of...
They're going to definitely dick all of us for being on Missouri last week, and they'll just come back and throttle Vanderbilt, just to throttle them.
You might be right. I like that Vanderbilt team, though, man. Diego Pavia is a dog.
He is. They beat a very good Virginia Tech team that I'm getting ready to talk about in Best Bets.
Yes. All right, let's get to some Best Bets. Here we go. AK, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so obviously my best bet of the show. I, ruined the surprise talking to you guys, but if you follow me at all, I'm on FSU minus 2.5 huge here. My other best bet for the show is Virginia Tech. One of the groups, I think it was Right Angle, played it, and I kind of bought the dip. It dipped down to 3. I still think it's 3.5 now. It's pretty much a consensus line. I believe in this Virginia Tech team. I think they stumbled out the gate. Again, like you said, against a Vanderbilt team that surprised a lot of people that day. And I just think they're starting to put it together. They handled business against ODU, got me the money last week. Rutgers running back, who they want to hand the ball off to 40 times. He's questionable. At best, he's going to be 75% this week if he goes. And at the end of the day, I just think Virginia Tech gets it right, but before they come into conference play against Rutgers. Rutgers got to travel, and guys, I don't know if you've ever watched the Virginia Tech game or if you've ever been experienced of being there. I've unfortunately been there as a UVA fan. I almost had to fight my way out every time. Their home field advantage is unbelievable. They are rowdy. They don't care if that team is 0-11. They will show up to every game, and I don't know if Rutgers is ready for that, man. So I have Virginia Tech -3 as my other best bet.
Love it. Trig, what's your best bets?
All right, so I've locked in 2 things at Wager Talk this week. So, as far as we're getting out of this. Let's go. Sorry. I've locked in 2 things at Wager Talk this week so far, both 4% plays. One of them is Florida State with my guy AK. So I'll give you guys the other one, and that is Northern Illinois -14. I truly believe that this Buffalo team is as bad of a team as you're going to find at the FBS level.
Trig always be shitting on these motherfuckers.
And listen, they're 2-1. They managed to beat Lafayette, pulled away at the end. Remember, they were a 4-point home favorite against Lafayette in that game. That's an FCS school. There was also a scenario at the end of that game, toward the end of that game, where they fumbled a kickoff and Lafayette sort of squandered a 1st and goal opportunity, which probably would have covered them that game. There was 0 chance, if you watch Buffalo play Missouri, there was 0 chance they were scoring a point in that game. They were not going to score a point. I think, nope. Jordan, you got a very fortunate cover at the end of that game with Missouri deciding that they were going to still play football in a 31-0 game with less than a minute left.
I did.
Taking shots downfield, getting you the touchdown with, I think, 38 seconds left in the game.
It's probably why I lost Missouri the next week, because I got fortunate on that one.
You too much good fortune. Buffalo laid it on a UMass team last week that still – so that's another team I follow closely up here in the Northeast is UMass. And coming into the season, I thought we might see, just based on the roster construction, the guys they had back, I thought UMass might improve. And I actually took a loss thinking that playing UMass week 1. That UMass team is still god-awful. So when you see that 34-3 final last week, Buffalo 34-3, just know that UMass team still has absolutely no clue what's going on. They accumulated less than 200 yards of total offense. And that's the one thing you got to understand too. Buffalo, that the defense has some players. So I might have to backtrack as we get into MAC play, calling them like one of the worst teams in FBS. But there's no doubt that their offense is one of the worst offenses in FBS. Ogbonna is their quarterback. He's the equivalent of like a backup walk-on, basically. Like that's pretty much what he is. So you cannot there's just no way they can score, in my opinion, with Northern Illinois. Like, listen, I actually thought I was going to have to pay more of a premium here because of the fact that Northern Illinois is ranked, the fact that Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame, and people now know that Northern Illinois can play this year. Yeah. But then Buffalo came out last week and threw a 30-point win on the board, and suddenly they're getting respect. And the other thing, it goes back years in the MAC conference. Buffalo used to be, go back a few years, Buffalo was kind of like always right there. And so they still get a little bit of name recognition. Yeah, when
they had Lance Leopold as their coach.
Exactly, right. And they had quite a few good seasons. They still get some name recognition love when it comes to the MAC. I think this spreads off by probably 5 points. Okay. I would probably have still laid 17 here with Northern Illinois. So the fact that I can get it at 14 and kind of get it at that key number, I think it was actually 14.5, came down to 14.
Yeah, it's 14 right now. It's basically 14 everywhere.
That's insane. There's no. It should be. This game to me should be a total bloodbath.
So
And-
NIU minus 14.
NIU minus 14, Jordan. This should be a total bloodbath. They've had a week to soak into Notre Dame loss. I'd be weary if it came in following weeks. Like if Notre Dame had just if Northern Illinois had just beat Notre Dame last week, I don't know if I could do it because of the hangover. But they had their week to get it out of their system. They go into the bye week. Remember, this is the start of MAC play, so this is still a big game for that. Conference game now. It's not a non-conference game. I just don't think they overlook Buffalo. And, I mean, their first home game of the year against an FCS team, they put up 54 points. I wouldn't be surprised if Buffalo, again, doesn't score. I don't think they're going to score more than 10 points in this game. What Notre Dame score against Northern Illinois? 14?
14.
Yeah.
Buffalo's not scoring more than that. So
Trey just
Buffalo's
spent like
gonna score
3
less
minutes
than
just
14.
shitting on fucking human or Buffalo.
Listen, I live to. This is like a team I follow closely. They're a couple hours away. I've been to the campus a million times. It's a kind of a cool place to just go see like a random midweek.
Is there hot
MAC
girls
game.
there?
I mean,
it's Northern Illinois.
No, Buffalo.
at
Buffalo. No,
Oh,
A
Buffalo.
lot of sorority girls at Buffalo.
How
That's
pale
how
are
they
how
roll.
pale are the
That's-
white girls up there?
Listen, they're city of Buffalo. It's a big city. Like it's pretty cool. But Buffalo is actually a pretty good time.
All
I
right.
would
They're
love
definitely
nothing
listening
more.
to Johnny Resnick.
I would love
and
nothing
Rudolph.
more than to smash all three of you through a table at a Bills tailgate. I might do it to AK in a few weeks if it comes
Yep.
up. Buffalo's a good time. But this is not a good Buffalo team, and they are going to get blasted in this game this weekend. So Northern
Hey,
Illinois
just to
is-
reinforce Trick's point, Jordan, our good friend Model has the game. Northern Illinois almost 20-point favorite.
I was gonna
What
say
do you
after
think?
Trig just went off for like 5 minutes, dude. I might have to play Northern Illinois now. Like
He's got the line in 19.5. So there you go.
he
sounds
might
about right.
he might have just
Yep.
convinced me on that one. I don't know. I don't follow the MAC, and so I put all my faith into you guys on that. So I
Dude,
think I'm gonna.
I actually, so we have another good pal, Brian Power at Wager Talk. Is like he went to Ohio, he lives in Ohio, and him and I just talk MAC sports all the time. I follow it more now than I did a few years ago. Now that I'm friends with him, we did a little show last year where we like talked just about the MAC, and unsurprisingly, no one watched it. So we stopped doing it this year, but we still talk about it.
Oh, fucking dead. All right, what's your best bets?
I got USC covering the spread.
All
I
right.
got Toledo, Western Kentucky. I like the over in that game. I like Toledo.
What's the hold on? What's the over in that one?
62.5.
All right.
I think Toledo could hit the over by themselves, honestly. Western Kentucky plays no defense. I got Cal minus the 2.5.
Plus 2.5.
Well, plus 2.5.
They're gonna win though.
I think they're gonna win outright. And then for my last best bet, I will roll with Illinois. Plus the 7.5 versus.
Okay.
There it is.
All right. Nice.
Illinois
nice.
gets revenge.
Nice. All right, my best bets from the games we talked about, I'm going Oklahoma plus 7. And then my other bets I played this week that are still at the current numbers, under 54 in Colorado Baylor. DeQuan Finn probably not playing this week. And Colorado's sneaky been good defense. Baylor has been a really good defense as well, so I like the under in that game. I also like Syracuse minus 8.5. You can get it at that number right now.
Let's go.
I think
Trig worth at least 1 point in the building. Make sure that's in your handicap.
Yeah, I would bet that up to 14 because Stanford is not that good, man.
Yeah, I think Hughes blows them out of the water. And then I also played Texas Tech minus 3 against Arizona State. I'm gonna keep fading Arizona State till I fucking win. So,
Hey Jordan, real quick, and then I'll let everybody go. I do have another best bet that I wanted to kind of just touch on real briefly.
yeah.
Georgia Southern plus 35.5.
Oh, yeah.
You want the stinky special. We kind of talked about teams were high on Tennessee, Nebraska. I'm also high on Ole Miss. Our good friend Joey Cheese, man, he kind of sold me on it over the summer. I listened to him talk about it all summer. I think one of those quarterbacks is gonna come out of week 4 facing some adversity, and I maybe more of them. But I think Jackson Dart. There's no way Ole Miss, to a team that scores top 30 in the nation in offense, top 30 in the nation in scoring offense. Georgia Southern's averaging almost 35 points a game. They've done it, you know, time in and time out. There's a reason why that total is so high. And do you know that Georgia Southern's team total over is the highest it's been against anybody? It's more than what Wake Forest team total was last week against Ole Miss. They're expecting this Ole Miss team to give up a touchdown. Because guess what? They haven't done it yet. They haven't gave up a touchdown yet. So I think Georgia Southern scores some points. You know, I could easily see this game being a 52 to 24 type game that easily gets us the money. So
I agree. Nice. Good call there. Clay Helton. Shout out Clay.
Yep.
Helton. Clay Helton coached under Lane Kiffin too, by the way. Another coaching tree connection there. Anyways, thank you everybody for joining us. If you missed any of the show, you can get it on any podcast platform, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google. Just search Taproom Sports Podcast and it'll be right there. You can follow everybody on Twitter. AK, what's your... I'll let everyone go through their Twitter. AK, what's your Twitter?
AK Sports 90.
Irv?
Targeted.
Swerving Irvin TSP right there on the screen.
Yes, sir. Trig?
I haven't done Zoom in a while. I have my old Twitter in here. It's now, but it's easier to remember now. It's just Adam Trigger WT.
There we go.
Adam Trigger WT on Twitter.
There we go. And then I'm at Jordan Rules TSP. You can follow the podcast at Taproom_sports. Follow us on Instagram at Taproom Sports Podcast. Make sure to download the Sharps app, SHARPZ, to your mobile device. Use promo code Jordan517. It's free to download, free to use. Track your bets, become a better. Everybody enjoy your weekend, man. Enjoy college football. Hopefully it's better than last week. And we'll be back on Sunday to recap NFL. And we'll see y'all later. Peace.
See you guys.
See you guys.